Hello and welcome to this evening's business webinar. My name is Madeline Wolski. I am the business librarian at Champaign Public Library. And tonight we have do-it-yourself brand photography featuring Alisa Nicolle, a local photographer and brand extraordinaire for tonight. So a few things about the library before Alisa starts. We are now open to the public. And we're still offering all of our curbside and virtual services. So you can also get in contact with us through live chat offered during our open hours, which are from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Saturday, and Sunday from noon to 6 p.m. Feel free to contact us online by scheduling a one-on-one appointment with one of our librarians. You can go to our website, www.champaign.org/book-a-librarian. You can also send us an email at your convenience to librarian@champaign.org. So I'd like to go over some Zoom features before we start. So if you look at the bottom left hand of your screen, you'll see kind of this audio button. That's where you can control audio functions. In the middle, there is the chat feature. You can go ahead and click on that. Make sure you focus on the to category. So you can essentially send it just to the panelists and hosts, so myself and Alisa, or you can also send a chat to everyone within the group. So make sure that that is sending to the right person. And I really encourage you guys to use this chat box, communicate with one another. Also, if you have any technical problems, you can contact me and I will help you to the best of my ability. So lastly, this is a webinar format, so if instead of typing you'd like to verbalize a question or response, feel free to click on that hand in the middle of that Zoom bar, raising it, which will then notify me to unmute you and you'll be able to ask over your microphone some questions of our presenter. So lastly, this will be recorded and uploaded to our YouTube channel, so if you have any additional questions, please send us an email. All right, without further ado, I'd love to introduce Alisa. She is a fabulous photographer, graphic designer, and a brand specialist in the Central Illinois area. And tonight she's going to be sharing a lot of her amazing expertise. So take it away.
All right. Hello, everybody. So first of all, I want to say thank you to the Champaign Public Library for having me today. I'm so incredibly excited to be here and just to teach you guys something that I am so incredibly passionate about, and that is brand photography. And we're actually going to even dive a little bit deeper into that as well and talk a little bit about other kinds of branding and different ways that we can discover and elevate our personal brand in not just an attainable way, but also a fun way too. I'm so excited to have you in here tonight, and we're just going to go ahead and dive right in. So before we kind of go over this course in full, I just want to give you a little bit of table of contents, kind of what to expect within this next hour. So the topics that we're going to go through are, first, I'm going to introduce a little bit about me, who I am, and who I serve, and the why behind that. And then I'm going to talk about brand photography, diving a little bit more into why does it matter and who is it for. And then I'm going to talk a little bit into our different resources, a DIY versus outsourcing. So how can we up level our visuals, and when do we know is the right time to outsource? So we got some juicy details in that too to go over. And then I have a fun little thing, kind of a challenge for you guys to do, and that is creating a vision board around your ideal client. Really excited to dive into that. It's something I'm really passionate about, and just a really fun project that I'll be challenging you guys in this evening. And then last but not least is just the takeaway, my number one thing that I always encourage people to do, and that is just to be yourself in anything that you put your heart into. And so diving right into that, I'm going to do a little bit of an introduction. Who am I? So I'm Alisa Nicolle. Now, I will have to say that I don't actually go by Alisa Nicolle. I do go by Alisa, but every single handle you find, Instagram, Facebook, website, it is under that branding. Thank you, mom and dad, to naming me a unique name, or at least unique spelling, so that URL has been available pretty much across the board. I like to describe myself as a multi-passionate entrepreneur and a personal brand enthusiast. I always used to just go by the one title, photographer, and although that is still a huge part of my life and my business, as years have evolved and the more that I've done, I've just learned that I'm multi-passionate. Some other titles that you might kind of know me as is a photo editor, meaning that I actually edit other photos for photographers. I'm also a personal brand enthusiast. I'm such an advocate for people to just embrace who they are and what it means to have their own personal brand. I'm a people person. I love people. I love building relationships. I love getting to know others. And last but not least,
every single one of my clients becomes a close friend of mine. And I absolutely love that. And that's something that I just feel really passionate about when it comes to building my personal business and my personal brand. So all of this to be said, who do I serve and why? My mission across the board, despite all of those, different titles I could put myself as an entrepreneur, really my mission is that I aim to be the reason that someone feels, oops, go back there, sorry about that. But I aim to be the reason that people feel seen, welcomed, heard, valued, loved, and supported. And so again, that's just going across the mission that I deeply care about who you are as a person. I want you to feel valued. And even if it's just me working with you as a client, or it's, us being friends in a personal relationship or anything in between those things, that is my mission. That is my goal. And so it's a pretty simple, it seems like a pretty simple way of thinking and a way of approaching this, but that's always going to be my mission. And so some of those ways that you might kind of feel that or experience that is either through doing a personal brand photography session with me, doing one-on-one mentoring or coaching, or even if it's just simply like sliding into those DMs and getting into a conversation. That's something I feel so excited about, and I'm constantly getting into conversations with others. And so again, it's just kind of that reminder that I deeply value having others feel important and valuable. And that's always going to be my mission in who I'm serving and no matter what I'm really doing. And so with that being said, a little bit of who I am, just diving into brand photography, I want to talk about why does it matter and who is it for? Again, I think brand photography is something that just feels like this very broad kind of saying that maybe a lot of people, this blanket statement that not a lot of people might know, what it could really hold. And so talking through that, I'm going to go through these 3 different points. So one, the value is when we showcase, so brand photography, why does it matter? And the value behind brand photography is that when we showcase high quality imagery that focuses on who you're aiming to serve, you're not only going to appear to be more professional, but you're also going to attract those ideal clients. So think of it, when you go to a brand new website or an Instagram account, or you even see a printed pamphlet, if you see something that just kind of feels like it's a thrown together thing with photos that aren't really cohesive or don't feel high quality, it's probably not really going to speak to you. However, on the contrary, if you go to one of those things, whether it's the website, Instagram, a printed pamphlet that you see at a store or a business, and you see that there's a cohesion behind the imagery, you can tell that it was done with high quality, with intentionality. Those are the things that, you bring the brand verbiage behind that, and all of that comes together, you're going to see that these people value who they're serving, and they're speaking to, their ideal clients through that high quality brand imagery. And so the next thing is talking about our cohesive look. So I know this is something, even as today I was talking about some people that I think are tuning in today, and they were saying, I struggle so much with being cohesive and consistent in my personal brand. And I know it. It's hard. It is hard to find a cohesive look. But with this, when we're showing up online, if we have an overall vision of where our brand's focus is, then it's going to be a lot easier to figure out how to bring that cohesion throughout our multiple platforms. And again, we're going to dive a little bit more into what that could look like for you to, take some applicable applicable things for you to take home today. So last but not least is you and the client. So I personally believe that brand photography serves both. One, as a creative, I just like pretty things. I'm not going to shy away from it. I love just things that are, you know, hashtag aesthetic, like things that just look good. But it's not just about me. I love that things look pretty. I love that they look good, but I believe it also serves your client. How does it serve this client? Well, it helps with when we have a cohesive brand vision, it helps our mission feel stronger in a way that is serving the viewer through like that clear and intentional imagery. Again, it's just speaking to them and saying, you know, this is who we serve. This is what we offer in a way that's visual. So many of us are visual these days, and especially in such a digital world, I feel like having that really strong imagery that is cohesive throughout really does speak to those ideal clients. Let's see. So I am going to share a secret with you. While I deeply believe that brand photography is so incredibly important and it's valuable and it's such an essential part of your business, it is not the only thing that makes a strong and cohesive brand. Shocker that I am a brand photographer telling you this, because I should be just here saying brand photography, that's all you need, nothing else, but that wouldn't be the truth. The truth is it is a package deal. You know, the imagery is so incredibly important. But in addition to the brand photography and having that strong, you know, overall look through your imagery, it's also incredibly important to recognize the value of having strong branding throughout multiple platforms. So for example, some of these different things could look like your website, your brand colors, your copy, which could also be your brand voice, so the words that you're reading, the words that I wrote today, etc. So here's a little element actually of some of the brand colors that I personally have in my brand. And these are things that I kind of keep throughout. Now, if you are not in the design world, I'm just going to explain this real quick. These little circles are the colors themselves. And then when you see the little hashtag and all these letters and numbers, what that actually is that's the color code. Like you put that in, I don't know how to explain this in design terms. This is why I'm the photographer, not the designer. But it's, but that code is the color that is listed right there. And so anytime that I am bringing in, whether it's photography and I'm trying to, you know, do a design for my Instagram stories, or I'm building a new PDF, or I'm even updating my website, I'm always pulling from these same colors because it's bringing that cohesion throughout my branding. So again, this is just one example of the many different ways that all of it really works together. So now you kind of maybe understand a little bit about what branding is and or brand photography is and why it's important, but now maybe you're asking, okay, what now? I get that branding is important. I get that, you know, having my colors set and figured out is good, and maybe having a clean website brings my ideal client in, but how do I even approach all of that? So we're going to talk a little bit about DIY versus outsourcing. So within that, I want to talk about how we can up level our DIY experience. And then also, if we decide to outsource, how do we know when? So I know, again, this is a lot to take in, but this is hopefully just going to help you be able to kind of break it down a little bit more. And so we're going to first dive into the how to up level your DIY game. So specifically, we're going to focus on photography within this. I personally decided to just pull images that I have taken on my phone. So none of these are my camera photos. And I really wanted to do that to showcase to you that you do not have to have this super fancy top of the line camera to create cohesive and just overall pretty solid photos. If you have a smartphone, there are just some simple tricks and approaches that you can do that will help up level your overall photography game if you're choosing to DIY it. So a couple of the different things that I just highly recommend while we're doing this is when you're going to create new imagery for your personal brand, you know, keep your eye out for the things that are inspiring you, you know, the things that you are excited about or that you just find natural beauty in. For example, if you are a calligrapher and every day, you know, you might see a little quote or you might read something in a book you're reading and that sparks something out of your eye, you might write it down. I encourage you to, you know, write it out and then take a photo of it. If you're, you know, going on a walk and you just love the way that the sky looks with the sun shining through the trees, or you have a pet and they're doing something really cute, like capture those little moments, little things that may or may not feel like it fits into your business. It will probably one way or another bleed into your brand, because if we're capturing the natural beauty that we see around us, it's going to be things that we're connected to in our hearts. And I really believe the more that we interact, you know, intertwine our personal, like our personal interests within our brands and the things that we're seeing in our everyday lives and the way that we incorporate those two, like that can create such a beautiful thing. And so these are just little photos that I have captured kind of recently that are just little moments in my life that have brought me joy, that I've seen beauty in. And it's kind of cool to see because a lot of this actually feels like it fits into kind of this personal brand that I've built, just whether it's through, you know, the style or the colors, and just like, I love neutrals, and you see a lot of that through these images. And so a few like tangible things for you to play with outside of doing the DIY is, one, if you're just using, you know, whether it's a camera or your phone or whatever device you have, natural light's your best friend. It is always so good to be with natural light and in good lighting. So if you're not aware of, you know, what that could look like, is maybe instead of taking a photo, you know, in a dark corner of a room, go over by a window where you're going to have the natural light shining through. Some, you know, having cleaner surfaces, like whether it's just your plain countertops, or even if you have like a piece of paper, you can do so many things with that. A couple of different apps that I absolutely love on my phone specifically that really help with this DIY is, we're going to talk through kind of 4 different platforms and experiences. So one is my editing. My favorite editing software is Lightroom. It is free to download on your phone, so you can get it on mobile as well as desktop. However, there is a subscription if you do the desktop, so I will put that as a disclaimer. For anybody who's also tuning in, if some of these are paid apps, if you want suggestions on non-paid apps, I'd be more than happy to give you other additional resources on some other different platforms that I love where you can edit photos. But my personal favorite is Lightroom. I think that's just because I feel like it gives me the most flexibility overall. And then recently, for anybody who's been kind of diving into Instagram Reels, I know that's, again, an overwhelming thing. It's one I'm still trying to figure out. But Instagram Reels and Instagram Stories, lately what I've actually been doing is I film everything in my camera, just in my regular iPhone on video, and then I bring it into this app called Tezza, T-E-Z-Z-A. I have it written out here. And this allows me to import any photos, any videos, and edit with what's called a preset, or what some people may know as a filter. And it helps me just have an overall like clean, cohesive look to the photo or video that I have. So this is extremely helpful if I'm filming stuff that is like either Reels or Instagram Stories. And that helps me kind of be able to just do it in real time and then go back and edit and post as I'm going.
Hey, Lisa,
Yes.
I have a question that's kind of about app integration within
Yes.
Instagram. So
Yes.
the question is, have you noticed any connection with Instagram feed planning and being shadow banned or restricted by the app? So her issue is whenever she tries to connect a different app to their Instagram account, her actions are normally restricted.
If we could figure out actually what that app, like what the app that they're using is, that would be helpful. I have never personally experienced that before.
I'd also wonder if it's like personal versus business account. Do those also interact differently with apps?
Yeah, so I would say that that is a possibility that it could be restricted due to the personal versus business. I have not actually personally experienced that beforehand. Um, but I know, so that's actually one of the things I was going to talk about is planning out. And I think this is what they're, asking a question in relation to is like planning out your grid. So I actually use two different ones because I pay for enough subscriptions that I didn't want to pay for another one with the planning, and I have multiple accounts, Instagram accounts. So I use both. I think it's pronounced as Unum, it's UNUM, and Preview. So those are the two different ones I use for planning out my grid. Now, I will say with that, sometimes every once in a while, if I try to post the photo directly from the app, the third-party app into Instagram, it will sometimes glitch and like shut down. So that's kind of maybe the only experience I've had close to that.
Okay, yeah, they were using Preview.
Preview. Yeah, and lately I have noticed that they have been a little bit more on the glitchy side. So my suggestion would either be try out the other app, which is called Unum, or what you could always do is just use Preview to essentially plan out your grid. But then what you could do is you could pull in again, I'm an iPhone user, so I can't particularly speak from Android, but I know on iPhone you can create albums within your camera roll. And so what you could do is you could always create an album within your camera roll that's Instagram posts, and any photos that you've maybe loaded into Preview to kind of figure out where you're going to plan it, you could just put it in that sub album. And then when you're getting ready to post on Instagram, just pull from your camera roll from that album versus pulling from the third party app, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and then just as the a resident Android user,
Yeah.
you can also do that with your Android.
I love that you confirmed that. I always forget that that's something that I need to address because I'm an Apple product person, but I recognize that's not always the case. So then last app that I absolutely love using, and it's the same one that I used for today's PowerPoint. I use it for all of my Instagram stories. I use it for so many Instagram post templates, like basically everything, is Canva. And Canva, there is a free version. There's so much that you can do for free. I do pay for the pro version just because I have been utilizing it on a daily basis as well as for client work too. So for me, it is worth the upgrade on that, but also again, their free version is incredible. So those are four different apps that I absolutely love and use on an everyday basis.
I guess I have another question about up-leveling DIY, especially with
Yeah.
like product placements. I remember reading somewhere about like the rule of three,
Mm-hmm.
or as far as like when you're trying to style something. You had mentioned like using clean sheets of paper or just clean surfaces. What are some other tips that maybe people can think about being creative by taking images of items or?
Yeah, absolutely. So rule of threes is always okay. So two things. One, it is great, and I will say that I do keep that in mind when specifically doing like product placement. Um, whether it's you always good to do kind of an odd number. So whether it's three, whether it's five, versus doing an even, unless you're going extremely symmetrical with it. Now, that being said, I have to be honest by saying I am somebody who doesn't always play by the rules. I've done photography classes. I've, learned all the rules that you're supposed to do with it. And I've learned it's a lot of just playing and seeing what works best for you. I think so many times we can get caught up in our minds, especially if we're not, in the professional photography world. We think, oh my gosh, we have to follow all these rules and it has to be this way. But at the end of the day, like, it just has to be something that speaks to you. It has to be something that you get excited about. And so I would encourage definitely playing a lot with, lighting. My favorite time of day is to photograph is in the mornings or afternoons, especially if you're in the Midwest. It gets dark by like 2, 3 p.m. And so definitely shooting in the morning. And like, I always try to go to the room in my house that is the best well lit. That's always really helpful for me. Papers, like my favorite to get, like you can literally just get poster board from Hobby Lobby for $2 and get, big poster boards. I would also encourage to play with different textures. I love bringing in different like blankets or even fabric pieces, sweaters, chunky knit sweaters, anything like that is really fun to just add in dimension and, you know, playing with those different layers. But I think at the end of the day, just keeping in mind, like, have fun with it, try things out. There's so many incredible resources. Like, I know myself, I'm always more than happy to get in a conversation with somebody about this. And even just resources like Pinterest and YouTube and podcasts. There's so many different things that we can, if we just are willing to learn about it, that there's those resources out there. And you'd be surprised by how many people would be open and willing to even talk about it. Cause like, this is what we do. We love it. And it's just something that I think when you take off that pressure, it helps. It helps to just have it be more of a fun thing and an experimental thing instead of just this, what feels like a chore. So hopefully that answered your question.
Yes, thank you.
Perfect. Awesome. So we'll go ahead and move on here. And we're going to talk a little bit about, now that we've dove into the DIY, we're going to talk a little bit about the value of outsourcing. And so specifically, when you know, or bringing in a professional, what that can kind of look like, and when you know what is the right time, when is the right time. So again, like, I am a big believer in the power of DIY. I DIY so much of my stuff. But I've also outsourced, and I recognize the value of what that can look like and what really that can bring to me, and how that can up level what I'm bringing to my clients, and also just give me a little bit of my sanity back in life too. And so some of those signs of when we might be ready to outsource are when the vision of what we're wanting to showcase is not matching the content we're personally creating. So if we have, now, if you have tried doing a DIY one time and it just didn't work out, and they go, oh, I'm just not getting it. Okay, I want to outsource. Yeah, if you have the resources to do that, feel free to. However, I would encourage you to try a little bit more. It's more, you know, it's important for us to learn, you know, how to do things and learn what we like versus what we don't like, and have that kind of experimental stage. However, if you've been executing time after time after time, and it's been, you know, 6 months, a year, so on and so forth, and you're just not quite getting what you know you want to be getting, that might be a time to outsource, you know, some of that brand work. Another, you know, time that we might be needing to outsource and kind of recognize that is that when we're not bringing in our ideal client, although we know our service is top notch. So I don't know if you've ever been here before, but if you've ever been in a place where you know what you have to bring is just incredible. You know that you've thought through your processes. You know that your pricing is competitive, but also reasonable. You know that you're going to bring the top quality service, but you're still not bringing in that ideal client. And that might be just simply not because you might not be doing that, not because you're not good enough or not because you don't know what you're doing. It might just be that your branding isn't clear. Maybe your website, you know, isn't set up in a way that is bringing clients to send in that inquiry. Maybe your website is solid, but your imagery really isn't. And that could, you know, have a little bit of work done. Or maybe it's your brand copy, the way that you're expressing yourself through your voice. That's not clear. So again, bringing in a professional and somebody who is a kind of fully knowledgeable of what that could be and could really help you with that, that might be kind of that game changer for you to be able to work with that ideal client. And then third, last but not least, is that when you have an idea or a vision, but you just don't have the time to execute it. I know now, coming out of 2020, we had a lot of extra time. However, we're heading into a new year. Things are picking up again. Things are shifting what seems like every day. And more, you know, our time is being taken up by other things, and our time's valuable. Like, some of us might be, you know, working parents. Some of us, this might just be a side hustle, whatever we're doing. We might have a full-time job. There's so many different circumstances that could interrupt the time that we have. And so again, a time that having the opportunity to be able to outsource gives you so much more of that time back too. So those are just a couple different ways that you would kind of know, okay, maybe it's time to outsource. And real quick, I don't think I actually have this in the slide, but I do want to say, just in case some people are wondering what that outsourcing could be when I'm talking about outsourcing particularly, is again, this might look like outsourcing your brand photography, whether it's your personal photos or photos of your product, or the photos of you or your business or your team. It could be outsourcing somebody to build your website. It could be somebody to look over all of your copy. And again, that's your brand voice, the written words that you're putting on your website, your social media, etc. It could look like outsourcing your logo, your design, your brand colors. So those are just a couple of different examples that I wanted to bring up in case anybody was curious of what I might be talking about when talking about outsourcing to a professional. So if I don't think we have any questions popping up right now, so I'm actually going to do something that is one of my absolute favorite things to do, and it's something that I do with every single one of my clients that comes in to be to get brand photography done. So you guys are kind of getting a little bit of that client experience right now. And so we're going to talk about our ideal clients and specifically creating a vision board. I absolutely love doing these. They're so much fun to do. I'm not going to have you guys dive into creating one tonight, but I am going to be challenging you. We'll talk a little bit more about this here soon, but I'm going to challenge you to create one of your own. So I'm actually going to go ahead and exit out of the PowerPoint here, and we're going to hop on over to Pinterest. And okay, so we're going to talk about the ideal clients and creating a vision board within this. So I absolutely love to set up these boards with my clients. What I'll have them do is I'll have them, set up a time, dedicate 20 minutes of your day, evening, whatever time that you feel like would be most uninterrupted, and put on your favorite playlist, light a candle, grab your favorite drink, and just allow yourself to dream. And the things that I always want you to dream about are what are the things that you feel most excited about when it comes to dreaming about your brand? And more specifically, who is your dream client? So I'm going to show you two different boards here, because the first board that I created here on Pinterest is one that I made years ago. And it was kind of when I first did this practice, and I still was kind of discovering who my ideal client was. But some of the things that I was pinning were different quotes that spoke out to me, different, styles, outfits, even settings. I was thinking through, in a dream world, when it comes to brand photography, who would I want to work with? Now, I am going to put a disclaimer here. At first, I thought I only wanted to work with women, and I love women. I love working with women, but at the end of the day, I actually am really passionate about working with anybody. I didn't want to be exclusive to just that. So again, this is just kind of, I've evolved a lot through the years, and a lot of branding is evolving and constantly growing. But this is kind of who I was, aiming for at the time. So my person was just somebody who loved to travel. They valued relationships. They valued intimate dinners in their backyard with their closest family and friends. They loved to explore new places and have adventure, but also took time for self-care. They really valued their health and their nutrition, practicing yoga and doing, at-home spa nights. But then also this person had a pretty, deep focus and passion for work and pursuing the things that they loved. Again, these are just some visual elements that kind of went along with that ideal client, but this is who at that time I was aiming to serve. Now we're going to hop on over, and we're going to go to my current ideal board. Now this one, I would say, is actually a little less stylized, and it's more so just things that less of a person, but more overall like a cohesive brand. So as you can see, even just the colors, it's a lot more neutral. It's a lot more kind of minimalistic, but still aiming towards those things of just being soft and feminine, but really like intentional with words. I have a lot of quotes because a lot of these really speak to me. This one is the one that I am just pretty much goes along with my entire mission. But again, it's just somebody who is just intentional with their time, intentional with their friends and family, loves a good solid style. Again, that kind of minimalistic, overall fun, adventurous, vibe. So with this being said, these are just the elements that I pull from anytime that I'm doing a design, a new design, whether it's updating my website or I'm trying to create a new PDF guide for clients or anything like that. I'm always going back to this board and I'm making sure that, my brand colors, the words that I'm sharing, even the brand imagery as I'm, dreaming up new content shoot ideas, I'm always coming back to this board to try to kind of figure out, is this in line with who I'm trying to serve and the brand that I am aiming for here? And so what I actually, let's see if I can hop back to here. So what I really want to encourage you guys to do is to set a timer, give yourself, 20, 30 minutes and do this exercise. You can either set it up like the board that I first showed you, where you vision a little bit more of like who that person is, setting up, what do they wear? What, do they like to do for fun? Where do they like to go? What colors are they attracted to? What quotes do they live by? Or if you just want to do it in a more kind of like aesthetic way where it's just the things that you're inspired by and more of that elements. Either way, I want to encourage you to create a board like this. And for anybody who wants to talk, I know we're going to be doing a follow-up kind of like Q&A style next week. I would love to see some of your boards or, have you guys send them to me afterwards. And we can kind of talk a little bit more through like what you discovered. Because I feel like, again, doing this visual element helps so much to know who you're speaking to when it comes to your ideal clients. And therefore knowing, how you want to, what kind of imagery you do want to create and how you do want to show up online. Now, I do want to say that if you're not Pinterest savvy, that is totally okay. No big deal. I still got you, and I still want to encourage you to do this. So a couple different ways that we could still do a vision board and kind of idealize, figure out our ideal client and kind of figure out what that ideal brand is through paint swatches, fabrics, quotes. You go to the hardware store, you can get the different colors, already printed out. You can pull fabrics, whether it's from just old scraps of clothes or if you are into sewing and you have that from there. Quotes that you read, write them down. Really, the sky's the limit here. Any of that works. Just begin collecting things that inspire you, that are like tangible things. Again, I was talking with Madeline about this, and digital magazines, the Champaign Public Library allows you to rent out their magazines. So you can actually rent out any magazine and make a print of it.
Yeah, so I will say it's a loan, not a rent, because everything is free.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't the right word.
Yeah, something I've enjoying. We have so many interior design magazines that are available from all across the world, and I've been definitely having fun with a lot of screenshots as my own personal inspiration for vision boards.
I love that. I love that. Well, and that's something that, again, just thinking outside of if we don't want to just be on Pinterest, like there are other resources, and the Champaign Public Library has incredible resources with that too. And you can take screenshots like Madeline does. You can, also from those, take those screenshots and print them out yourself if you still want that, tangible, non-digital way of looking at it too. And then last but not least is like photo memorabilia. I am sure you have some kind of photos printed out. Now, I know that's not the habit anymore, but somewhere, if you at least don't, maybe your family does, your parents do, sisters, brothers, etc. You probably, could get access to those printed photos. Or what you could also do is, if you have a ton of photos on your camera roll, go through and print them out. Walgreens, it's super cheap to just go to, Walgreens, Costco, wherever, and just get these photos printed. That's another way that we can incorporate that and create just a tangible, like physical inspiration board, essentially the OG Pinterest. So that's another way that I would just encourage you guys to do that. If anybody does this too, whether it's via Pinterest or via, tangible board that you have, I would love, love, love to see it. So definitely share those, because I would love to check them out. So at the end of the day, kind of as we wrap some things up, what I really want to talk about is just what is most important through all of this, through any kind of branding that you're doing. It is so incredibly important for you to just be yourself. I know that we could just spend so much time creating the perfect brand and just going over and over again of, is this right? Or are these fonts, fitting to what I envisioned? Or are these colors really speaking to my ideal client? And although those things are so important and they all like blend into each other and they all do really bring a lot of value, if they're not true to who we are, if it doesn't feel authentic to, our character and our hearts, it's not going to come across as genuine, and therefore we're probably not going to attract our ideal clients. I know I've learned this through kind of the hard way of just struggling with just kind of the imposter syndrome and worrying, feeling like I had to be somebody else in order to, speak to my ideal client. And then it was kind of the moment that I started to just be me and pursue the things that I was excited about, and, share the photos that spoke to me and the photos that brought me joy, and even, the colors and the way that I talked and the way that I showed up to stuff like this. Like, the less that I thought about it and the more that I was just present in who I was, the more I feel like I have begun to really attract those ideal clients and attract the people that I just want to work with, because they're my kind of people, because we, are aligned in the same kind of mission and we have a lot of those same values. And so that's just what I feel like is the most important, as you're kind of starting to, pave the way of what that perfect brand is, because that perfect brand is who you are. And so if you are who you're showing up as who you are, then you're going to attract those dream clients. You really are, because they, again, are going to align with your vision, your mission, and your values. And so with that being said, a couple reminders is, it's okay. I am giving you permission. It is okay to let loose and have fun with it. We do not have to be super uptight about it. Like, it can be so easy to get in our heads and just let that, perfectionism, or that we don't know how to show up, to just let that control, what we're doing. But I really want to encourage you to just show up. I want you to remember that you're the only you. And that's pretty dang incredible. Like, there's nobody else out there like you. And so therefore, why try to be anybody else? Just show up as who you are, and people are going to love that. I want you to embrace your personality. Don't be afraid to show it off to others. There are some quirky things about me. There are some things that are far, far, far from perfect. But again, I might not get there every day, but at the end of the day, I am trying to just show up and show off my personality in the fun, quirky little ways that is. And then kind of last but not least within that is just to not be afraid of trying new things and to be silly. And, you never know how much fun you are going to have when you just kind of let loose and just embrace that silliness. And again, like, these photos are kind of a fun representation of one of those moments. This is with my good friend Astrid, and she did a personal branding session with me. She's an incredible photographer, and she had actually never done a branding shoot before. Despite her photographing so many other people, she had never been photographed in a formal way herself. And I remember when we first started this shoot, she just kind of felt a little awkward, a little timid. Despite her job is to tell other people what to do and to help, photograph them, to make them feel beautiful, she kind of did the, I don't really know what to do with my hands and I feel awkward. And I just encouraged her. We put on a good playlist. We just, you know, did a little dance and we just had fun with it. I encouraged her to just embrace who she was. And she's such a fun, bubbly, like loving personality. And I feel like you can see that through these images, and you can definitely see it, you know, when you interact with her and if you have the opportunity to work with her as a client. And so again, like it was just my mission to help her recognize that she was seen, recognize that she is valued, recognize that she was worthy of being in front of the camera, recognize that people like wanted her to show up as who she was, not anybody else, but as Astrid. And that's something that, you know, we captured throughout her session. And that's really my goal overall. And whether I'm the one photographing you or you guys are, you know, working with somebody else, or you're doing your stuff DIY, or you're having your best friend, your husband, your boyfriend, whoever doing it for you, like I would encourage you to just let loose, have fun with it, do a little dance, and, you know, be silly, because at the end of the day, life is just, it could just be so easy to be uptight about these things, but like branding can be fun and it should be fun. So that is just kind of what I would encourage you guys to do as you kind of move forward and just discover a little bit more about what your personal brand is. So we're going to kind of wrap things up here. If you liked what I had to share, I go on long tangents a lot on Instagram stories. You can follow me at Alisa Nicolle. It is spelled out here. I also have another newer account that's just Alisa Nicolle Photo. That's where I'm mainly showcasing a lot of my photography work with branding, as well as I do couples and weddings too. My website is alisanicolle.co. Facebook and Pinterest /Alisa Nicolle. It is straight across the board, nice and easy. So I hope that you guys follow along and just feel free to shoot me a message. I would love to get into a conversation with you. Like I said, that's one of my absolute favorite things. And any questions that you ever have, please, please, please don't hesitate to reach out and ask them, because I'm always happy to answer them. So.
Well, great. Thank you so much, Alisa. That was fantastic, absolutely informative. And I am most excited, well, besides everything, but I love that you gave everyone the opportunity to kind of work on their own vision board, pull together some images, just examples of what they want to kind of create for their own brand. Because isn't there going to be an amazing opportunity next week to kind of go over what they work on one-on-one with you?
There sure is. I feel like an infomercial here, but there is going to be an opportunity on February 11th at 8 a.m., I believe. I think Madeline is getting this pulled up. And so this is going to be more essentially like a Q&A style. I know this is something the Champaign Public Library does with the majority of their talks. And so they're called these business roundtables. And it's going to be an opportunity for you guys to just kind of show up and ask any follow-up questions. Maybe you've had a little bit of time to process through some of the information we talked through. Maybe you downloaded some of the apps, even planned out your vision board. And so this will be just an opportunity to ask any questions that might have come up as you kind of process through what we've talked through, as well as maybe show off a little bit of that vision board.
Yeah, and again, this is a really casual meeting format, so no webinar. You don't have to turn your camera on if you don't want to, because 8 a.m., it's a little early, but I encourage you to join in. Again, this is kind of whatever questions you have that you want to ask Alisa after you've kind of meditated on what we've already talked about tonight, or if you maybe even want her feedback on like, hey, I shot this. What do you think? It's really kind of a free-for-all, which is a pretty amazing opportunity. A little biased, but there you go.
But yeah, no, honestly, I'm more than happy. Like the sky is the limit with where the conversation can lead. So for anybody who attends, you guys are going to be kind of the drivers of the conversation. So I will probably have some like general questions that I might think through that could come up from what we talked through tonight. But again, it's just going to be open to anybody who has those questions, and you guys can kind of direct the, where you want that to go.
Absolutely. And again, that's going to be next Thursday at 8 a.m. in the morning. You just register as you would a regular old event on our website at www.champaign.org. Great. Well, I'm going to leave off with some more library information. Just a reminder, we are open now from Monday through Saturday from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. and Sunday from 12 p.m. to 6 p.m. We are open. We had a great first day, but we are still able to help you out virtually. Our curbside services are still going on. You can always email us at librarian@champaign.org, chat with us online, or book a one-on-one Zoom meeting with us on our website. So again, thank you all for joining us this evening. Have a wonderful night. And if you're not at home, drive safe.
Thank you guys. Appreciate it so much. Thanks for tuning in.
Thank you.